Imagine paying your ex's bills for years, not because you have to, but because it helps your kids. Then her new boyfriend walks in, calls it controlling, and everything explodes. Am I the a-hole for finally stopping? Alt account so I don't dox my main. My ex and I split up about 3 years ago. No bad feelings, we just drifted apart until we realized that we were now co-parents, not husband and wife anymore. We have 2 kids, 13 and 10. My ex used to work as an infrastructure engineer and I was working as an owner-driver with my own truck. At around the time the kids were born we decided she was going to be a stay-at-home mum. The trucking was going well and I had brought a second truck and a van, so I stayed home doing all the planning and admin, while I had the trucks and van out. When the smallest started school the ex went back to work part-time, but her time out of the workforce had hit her really hard and she needed to learn lots of stuff, and basically she couldn't get back in at her previous level and had to pretty much start over. Over the years the haulage firm had expanded and frankly it was getting a bit of a pain in the arse. We were too big for where we were and were needing to move to a new yard, so I sold it off for a reasonable sum and set up freelancing as a dev, did computer science at uni. We both had relatives pass away, leaving us property and money. So we were mortgage-free on the family home. When we split, I moved into a house that I had inherited. We basically split the assets in half, split the costs of the kids' activities in half. And when we were sat looking at the money, she concluded that she would need to go back to work full-time and she would miss time with the kids, as they were with me the 3 days she was at work, and every other weekend I felt a bit bad for that, because if she hadn't been out of work for so long then she would be in a better place career-wise. So I offered to cover half of her bills until the kids went off to uni. She didn't want to at first, but I said to her that she helped me out and had now suffered as a result, so it was only fair that I returned the favor. It's helping my kids out, and I didn't want her to be running down the savings that was essentially the kids' inheritance. So this situation has worked out about as well as it can. We co-parent happily, everything is all good. Until she met a new guy. He's someone we knew from way back but we lost touch with. They started dating, she's really happy and she's talking about him moving in. Which I'm okay with, the kids get on with him and I trust her judgment and know that she wouldn't put anything ahead of the kids. So I said to her, if Lado is moving in you won't need the money towards the bills, will you? She said no she wouldn't, but she was thinking of putting it into the kids' accounts. Great idea, says me. I'll put some on their cards for pocket money and the rest in their savings. So that was what we agreed. But when new chap found out, he went up the wall and accused me of being controlling and financial abuse. A few of our friends have also said that he's got a point and that it looks like jealousy. So AITA here. Update, edits and clarification. We have joint 50/50 custody of the kids, so I have no actual obligation to be paying anything. But that said, I don't want my kids to miss out on their many and varied activities, so I carry on paying for half of those. Likewise, I offered the extra money to help with bills because I wanted my kids to benefit from time with both parents and also to not have to live in a house where money is a worry. Some have mentioned when division of assets from inheritance and selling my business. These are mostly locked away in long-term investments, so they aren't available. We were perhaps unwise in doing this, but we saw it as the kids' inheritance. My ex would rather have worked more than dipped into that money for living costs. The ex has been round for a cup of tea and a chat. It seems that Lado was indeed thinking that she was his meal ticket. Apparently he had suggested moving in but not told her that his landlord was ending his tenancy on a Section 21 to sell the property. When she started discussing money and his contribution, he asked why when I was paying for the kids. So she told him if he was living there he needed to chip in, and that if he moved in she couldn't keep asking for money from me. So she's upset and I think that's going to be over. In the meantime he's ranting to anyone that'll listen that I'm the typical evil jealous ex and controlling her with money. Update, 10 days later. Thanks for all the comments and advice. Just thought I would update you all on the last week. So Lado turned out to have been being kicked out of his place, not through fault, the landlord was selling, he hadn't told my ex. Also he works with my best mate who told me that he's on incredibly thin ice and was on his last chance for attendance. Me, the ex and Lado got together at the weekend and had a long chat. The main points were, if he is going to be her partner and live there then he has to step up, and contribute both financially and also with the children. As regards the bills, both my ex and I had an expectation that another adult in the house would be contributing, meaning that bill money from me would be superfluous. I agreed that stopping the money because someone moves in and potentially restarting it if they move out does look like it's controlling, although it was agreed that I didn't have that intent. I said that I would continue giving my ex the money and that if it was surplus to requirements that she would put it in the kids' accounts. I do trust her that she will do this. At that point I left, and went home thinking all was good. I'm on holiday with the kids this week and I got a warning that the house alarm was going off. Rang me neighbor and he went round and said that one of the windows had been smashed and that my other car had had all its windows smashed. Logged into my cameras on the iPad and sure enough it's Lado smashing the fuck out of the car and throwing bricks at the window. Turns out that after I left him and the ex had a major talk where she laid out some home truths and expectations, and when she didn't like the reaction she got she ended it. So a couple of days later he got pissed and came round to my place and smashed it up. I obviously reported it to the police and with me being away they spoke to me over the phone and asked me to send all the footage if I could and a statement and they'd speak to him that day. Turns out he got stopped on the way back from mine, was over the limit and was sleeping it off in custody before he could be charged. Edit. I've seen a couple of comments about how I need to speak to the ex and tell them to be more careful. I 100% trust her judgment in who comes into the kids' lives. I was just as surprised by him as she was, and like most people she's capable of learning from experience. Also another edit. The Glaziers have been back out the lady next door big style for all the help she's been, and apparently the total bill just for the house is going to be about £7,000. That's not counting the car, which is an old Rover I was restoring, so no idea how much that will cost. Update. Probably the final update now. Got back home with the kids after our week away. I've got the window people fitting new windows. Had a victim update from the police. They charged with criminal damage but apparently they're treating it as domestic violence. I had to get a friend who is a lawyer to explain that to me using crayons. But the main consequence is that they kept him in custody overnight, whipped him before the magistrates the next day. They sent the case to Crown Court and released him on police bail and is not allowed near either of our homes or to contact either of us. And he has to stay at a bail hostel which is in another town about half an hour away. He's looking at some prison time for this. I just hope that while he's in there he gets his head sorted out and his issues dealt with.